This is Ogden, Utah, a city full of unique and diverse stories from all kinds of communities. From Union Station that brought the country together, to the Ogdenites that have lived here for generations, to the residents with disabilities that enrich and inspire our community, to the new Americans who have decided to call Ogden home. These are some of the stories you'll hear on this series. Welcome to the Untold Stories of Ogden City.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Untold Stories of Ogden City. My name is Ellie Mckinlay.
And my name is Lexi Green.
We have a guest on today's episode. His name is Reyes.
Hello, hello.
And the episode that we'll be talking is Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover.
And we will be covering some of the misunderstood things regarding the disabled community. And we'll be talking about the stereotypes, the barriers, and understanding the fact that disability is a spectrum.
So yeah, let's get started. So our first topic that we're going to be talking about is the misconception, stereotypes. So, Casey, would you tell us what
your experiences?
Yeah, what your experiences are?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me on the show today. So, yeah, I'm a blind person, and oftentimes when I'm in public, it doesn't matter what the context is, whether I'm at a restaurant somewhere, I'm walking around on my college campus or at the gym, people see a blind person and they often think to themselves that I cannot do anything, right? Like when I tell someone that I'm blind, they will all of a sudden be very, very helpful, which is not a bad thing. It's a very, very good thing. I love finding helpful people. The problem is sometimes they may try to offer too much help, not because they think I can't do anything, but because they don't know of my abilities. They don't know that I'm just a really cool person who just happens to see blind. I'm just a really cool person who just happens to be blind, right? So, and that's where it's up to me to kind of inform them and say, when they do try to offer me a little bit too much help, this is where I step in and say, actually, I do know how to do this. What I will actually need help with is this, right? For example, let's say that I'm at a restaurant and I'm trying to access the menu, whether that be by looking at it online, or maybe there's a braille menu. I will then advocate for myself and say, can you please tell me about your burgers? Can you tell me about your tacos, right? Just having some information about what I want to know, so then, and how they can best help me, so then they can, actually give me good quality help that's going to help me to reach my goal.
That's great. You have to, advocate for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you have anything to add, Ellie?
So what I would say is my experience is that oftentimes people think I can't be independent, and they think I don't, because of my disability, I can't do hard things, and they don't know how to adapt, and they don't know how to accommodate. So I have to advocate for myself and ask, say, I need this specific accommodation in order to help me be successful. And there's a lot of people who they're well-meaning, but they do not understand that they just want to help me out with everything, or they'll for example, if I'm in a public environment, they'll grab my arm and try to guide me, and because they don't understand what sighted guide is, or they'll describe things to me, and they will tell me oh, go this way, go that way. They'll just point to things, and they won't give me more of a description. But it's just, it comes down to the fact that people just don't understand how to act and what to do in those situations, so they just either assume, or they just go based off of what they know. But the problem is that most of the people know is a stereotype. Like, we don't know, like, the main, like, what actually goes into, like, the fact that the people with disabilities, like, they live almost normal lives, almost completely normally.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's not because they doubt our abilities, they try to help with too much help, but it's not because, they think that we can't do anything. It's because they just don't see blind people every day, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I agree with you, Ellie. I get that quite a bit, actually. So I take the front runner every Friday to go home, and it's a struggle, because when you have someone who is blind and or visually impaired, you don't usually think, oh, this person can go by herself in a way that, because with sighted people, it's easier for them,
Like,
but
to navigate, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
but
they have their largest sense.
yes,
Vision.
but with us visually impaired people, it's like we have to modify it, and we have to memorize the routes and stuff. And so I totally agree with you, Ellie, with people will literally grab your arm. And I have had that happen so many times because, like, if I ask, hey, I need help finding the benches at the platform, people would be like, oh, you need help? Okay, here, I can just grab your arm. And it's like, no, I don't need that. I just need you to tell me, like, verbal directions.
Yeah, and it goes back to the whole, this is where you can step in and show them, I actually know how to get to the platform. I know how to get to, wherever I'm going. What I actually need help with is how to get to the benches, like what you were saying.
Yeah.
I know how to get to the platform. I just need to know where on the platform the benches are, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with that. Like, I feel like, like, you have to kind of advocate for yourself and say, hey, I don't need, like, if you need sighted guide, you can explain what that is. And if you need verbal directions, you can say, hey, just like, describe where it is, and or you can just follow them. Like,
Exactly.
that's what I usually do, is I just follow.
Yeah, same, because it's easier that way, and who knows, like, I don't know, because some people are like, oh, sighted guide, is that like, I just grab your arm and you're just like,
No, it's the other way around.
Yeah. Or like, they'll lead you the wrong way if they sighted guide you, and so it's easy to just ask them, hey, can I just follow you, and will you just give me verbal directions of going to my right or to my left?
Yeah.
Because I've also gotten people who would just point, and they would go, they would say, hey, go that way.
Exactly.
And it's like, I don't know what that way means. And it's like, I don't know, some people think, oh, well, then I don't know how to teach you, and it's kind of sad, to be honest, because, like, you want people to know the directions, right? But people, I don't know, I mean, Casey, since you have some vision, you can correct me on this, but I know, to me, a lot of people have, like, they just rely on their vision, and so they just say, oh, it's to the left, but, like, reality, they don't know how to explain the direction to a blind person. So if it's like, it's to your left, well, do you mean to my left, or to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, this is why it's your responsibility as a disabled person, as a blind person, to help them help you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if they don't know how specifically to provide you with enough detail, then you can give them examples. Like for instance, like you said, Lexi, I do have some vision. So I will say, just to give them an idea of what exactly I can see, I'll put it into layman's terms. Like, I'll say, okay, so I'm blind. My visual impairment is retinopathy of prematurity, or RLP. I'll explain what I can see. I'm totally blind in my right eye. Totally blind. Not even, like, people think it's often black. It's not even black. It's like being able to see out of your elbow. Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in my left eye, I can see a little bit. I can see large detail, like colors, but not fine detail, like facial expressions, patterns, stuff like that. And so you see, when you provide those details, those information, then the sighted person or whomever is helping you is able to, understand, all right, this is where the person's at. So now let's see how I can best help them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I agree with that. Like some of the stereotypes regarding blind people is like, oh, like people just think, oh, you can or you can't see. And like they just say, oh, you're totally blind. And then you have to kind of explain to them, like a lot of people think I'm totally blind. They assume I assume I don't have any vision, or they'll ask me like, how much vision do you have? And I'll just say, well, I have light perception. My vision impairment is optic nerve hypoplasia, and I have a pretty good amount of light perception. I can't see any shadows though. Like that's what people think. They think I can see shadows, but I can't. And so I just had to kind of like tell them I can and can't see so that they don't assume I'm completely blind.
Yeah. So second topic is barriers, and I can start if you guys want. So with barriers, I get people who would say to me, like they apologize a lot. Like I don't know if any of you guys have that.
Oh yeah,
but like
I have.
people
Definitely.
People would always say, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you're blind. I really am. Are you sad? Are you, like, are you angry that you're blind?" And I always have to tell them, "Hey, well, it's part of me,
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
I can't change it,
I mean, sorry, Lexi.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, so what I wanted to say is, oftentimes when I hear that, because I hear that a lot, like specifically if I'm talking to a random person on the bus, for instance, or just in public somewhere, they always say, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that." And I usually smile to myself because I say, it's okay. I mean, it's all I've known. I don't really know what it's like to see well. I don't know what it's like to see 100%, right? So I don't really know what I'm missing on. And so all I know is that I'm blind. I can't see it in my right eye. I can see a little bit in my left eye. And so, I mean, I don't really know what it's like to see. So I just try to tell them that, yes, I am blind, but a blind person's life is not always sad. I'm not someone who's going around complaining every day, "Oh, I can't see, it sucks." Granted, there are some days when it does suck to be blind. Like I can't drive, so I can't, if I'm a date, I can't say, "Oh, hey, I'll pick you up at 7:30. Maybe I'll pick you up at 7:30 on the bus," but like,
Yeah.
not in the conventional sense of driving. But to bring back to my original points, no, I like to highlight the good things about being blind, right? Like I highlight, I've been able to create my community. Like I went to the school for the blind. I was in my mainstream school, so I received services from the school for the blind. My teacher for the visually impaired saw me twice a week. I went to fun camps. The blind community is so tight, right? Because we go to camps and short-term programs, and that's a time for you to go and hang out with all of your blind friends, right? These are people who can relate to you, so that when you go back into the real world, so to speak, the world that is not blind, because we very much live in a world that is catered to sighted people, right?
Exactly.
Then I'm able to I'm recharged. I feel like I'm ready to take on the world again. I'm ready to advocate for myself, take on new challenges, take new risks. And, I just overall, when they tell that to me, I'm sorry, don't be, because it's actually a really good life. I'm sure, just like your life is really good,
Yeah, and like you said, Casey, like it's all we know, and there's nothing to feel bad about.
Yeah.
And also, like, if we feel bad, like we're just gonna waste our life thinking, "Oh, I wish I could see,"
Yeah.
and we won't like get to see no pun intended,
Didn't
the aspects
see that coming.
of like of blindness and like what it's like, because if you just just reflect on, if I could see, I could do this and this and this, you're just not thinking about like what you have done and how you've adapted to your blindness. And I know some people who have lost their vision later in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
They feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But like for us, it's normal. And so when people say that to me, there's actually been one instance where people were like, so you're blind, you can't, and if I like, why don't you feel bad? Why don't you feel sorry for yourself? And if I were in your situation and I lost my sight, like I would just not be here, basically. So they were like, so why didn't you do that, basically? And I was like, well, first of all, I had no plans to do that. And second of all, it's not, being blind is not unusual to me. Like, I know what it feels like for people. I know like where they're coming from and like their perspective, but it's really not that bad once you get more confident in like your skills and your tools that you have. I mean, like public transportation is complicated sometimes, like, but at the end of the day, we shouldn't think about what we don't have.
Exactly.
Basically.
Think about what we do have.
Yeah.
Right? And then, I mean, in regards to your previous inquiry about those who lost their vision later on in life, I do know people who lost their vision later on in life.
Yeah.
And that's a huge barrier for them, right? Like one of my good friends, he lost his vision at 20 or 21. And so, like, we grew up, he was a sighted person. He was someone who could see. And so all of a sudden he got in an accident. And so he couldn't, like, his whole life was upside down, right? So that's why it's up to me and other blind people, his other friends of his who are blind, to kind of help him out, right? Like show them the good side. Take
control of their lives.
Yeah. Teach them to take control of their lives. You know, there's a lot of resources out there for blind people. The blind school, he was able to receive services from there. And then the division services for the blind and visually impaired in Salt Lake City, they offer a training program for adults who lost their vision later on in life, the Utah Council for the Blind. A lot of really good organizations that can help blind people who lost their vision later on in life and just kind of adjust to, the unknown of being blind. And I mean, once they get to that point where they're kind of comfortable with it, it's fun. Like, then they are where we are, right? Mm-hmm. Then they start to think, this is not that bad because this is my reality now, and I'm going to have to accept it. I'm not going to mope around and complain about my life. I'm going to just think about, like what you said, Ellie, I'm going to think about and be grateful for what I do have, which is, may not be my vision, but it's my friends, it's my family, it's my community, stuff like that.
And a lot of blind people can contribute to the community more than we think.
Exactly.
They do. Like, they hold down jobs. Like, there's a lot of, statistics say that most 8 out of 10 visually impaired people are either unemployed or underemployed. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of us, we've faced barriers in the workplace because people either didn't think we could do the job because of like our vision, or we didn't get hired, or because I feel like some people just don't want to hire people because they have a disability, and because under the ADA they have to hire them. But I feel like it's a struggle for visually impaired people in the workplace because they have to really advocate for themselves, and they have to ask for all the accommodations, and then like sometimes people just will not
Yeah.
respect that.
And another thing I want to add is with like hanging out with friends, you know. So like when you go to school dances or just whatever, or you're just hanging out with friends in general, I know a lot of people who are visually impaired, and they would someone would ask them, how do you hang out with your friends, you know, or how do you always do the fun things with your friends if you guys can't see? Like, for me, like, some people would ask me, how do you go watch movies with friends? And I just tell them I do
What most people do.
what
Like
most
when
people-
everyone else is doing.
yeah.
Like we watch movies with audio description. That's how
Yeah.
we understand like what's going on. And it is true, like we can't drive around everywhere. Like
Yeah.
so we have to adapt and we have to use public transportation. And it still works.
We still get
where
to
we
places.
need to, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that was a barrier for me when I first started hanging out with my friends or going places on my own. I had to get lost a lot, right? Like when I first started learning how to use the train and the bus, I got lost a whole lot. And sometimes it would take me hours to get back to my house or hours to get back to this train station that I started at. And it was scary, but I mean, that's the fun part about going out and breaking barriers is, for me, traveling by myself, using public transit was a huge barrier for me that I knew that if I didn't conquer that or try to face it at some point, that was going to be something that was preventing me from doing a lot of things, right?
Exactly.
Because we rely on public transportation. So if I didn't know how to use it, I would probably have to have my mom drive me around or like call an Uber everywhere. And I don't want that because it's a really good feeling to be able to go around by yourself, whether that be walking or
Yeah.
taking a bus to get brunch with some friends, right?
Yeah.
One of many barriers that we face is blind people.
Or like, you know, I agree. Like going out on dates, you know, because I don't want my parents to always like follow me.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah. So I think I agree with you. Like it's really good to break that barrier and to get lost. And for me, I actually still struggle with that because I'm a huge people pleaser and I tend to want to make things perfectional over here. And so I'm always just like, oh well, if I go hang out with friends, then how am I gonna get myself there? You know, and I have the answer in front of me. You know, it's like it's literally in front of my just in front of me. Like I have a source that I can look back to. But sometimes I get too overwhelmed with, well, what if that source doesn't work? Well, have I even tried it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my struggle right now. And just know that everyone is going to struggle with some sort of barriers and some sort of traveling, you know, because we're all not perfect at it.
Yeah, and I agree because like you have to like get lost and you have to learn like the routes and you have to like you don't like sometimes you just have to like practice like with your orientation mobility instructor and like just make sure that you have enough knowledge and enough information to use the resources that you have and not rely on other people because you want to be independent and you eventually you're going to have to make sure that you can get around independently because that's what everyone else is doing and we have to and I feel like a lot of visually impaired people like struggle to prove that they can do things that people do like in today's society and we face a lot of challenges regarding the community. It's just the community is not open to like the possibilities of like accommodating a visually impaired person. And I know like some public transportation, like there are some buses that are not like accessible, like they don't announce the stops, or they don't like the like sometimes you have to like let the bus driver know like, hey, I'm visually impaired, and I'm going to like this stop or whatever. Like, you know, you have to let them know, because sometimes they don't know.
Yeah, and that's a barrier. That's something that I face a lot, actually. Especially when I first started riding the buses, I knew what stop to get off at, but how was I going to know when I'm approaching that bus stop if the stops are not being announced, if the ADA announcements are not on, right? And so to combat that, I worked with my own orientation mobility specialist and other friends, and they showed me a bunch of really cool apps, assistive technology, that could help with that, right? There's one app, one of my favorite travel apps, called Voice Vista. And it's an app that gives you turn by turn walking directions for if you're like on the bus. This is where I used it the most. Let's say the ADA announcements were off. I went to Voice Vista and I turned on the mode that told me what bus stop I was approaching. Like it would say 50 feet approaching 7th and Harrison. It was a really, really cool app. So no longer were the days that I had to go to the bus driver and say, hey, I'm visually impaired. Can you please let me know when you get to this stop? Because now I can just put on my AirPod, launch Voice Vista, and listen to the stops on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like, I use, so this is also something I use. I will use my Meta Ray-Ban glasses.
Yeah.
They're so cool. So, quick description for those of you that don't know. So the Meta Ray-Ban glasses are in AI smart glasses, and you can get them in various lenses. So I have mine in a transparent lens. So when I go outside, they go dark, and then when I'm indoors, it turns into just regular glasses lens. But I will use sometimes my Meta to tell me like where I'm at. So like I would be like, hey Meta, describe what's in front of me. And I like sometimes it can't read the sign clearly, so I would have to go closer. But it really helps when you're traveling because it's also hands-free. And so let's say if you have your cane in your hand and you have your phone in the other, right? And you can't use your phone right now because you have your cane, right? So that's when like technologies like these can absolutely help you, and it can just describe to you what you're seeing, and you can also video call on the glasses, Ira or Be My Eyes, and you can get a volunteer to help you find where you need to be. And so then all you need to do is just angle your
The camera.
your head. Yeah.
I love Ira so much. I use it so much, especially when I travel, because I'm not sure if you guys know, but Ira is free in the airport, in all airports, right? So I used it.
Mm-hmm.
I was in New York a few weeks ago for a cohort, and I was trying to get to my gate, and someone was originally I had planned to have someone help me from the airport, like an airport staff, but they took 20 years to come help, and I was really needing to get to my my gate.
Your
so Plan B. This is why planning and preparation is so important. I took out Ira. I knew where I was. I came out of security. I said, hello, I'm at JFK Airport. I'm just about to leave the TSA checkpoint. Can you please direct me towards the sea gates? And this app is so great because the IRA agent can access your camera, and they will do is need you to pan around so they can take pictures of signs. And they helped me get to my gate really well. They gave me turn-by-turn directions. I love IRA. IRA is so helpful.
They're also professional volunteers.
Yes,
so
those people are trained, yeah.
With Be My Eyes, for those of you, quick description. So Be My Eyes
It's free. It's like a
free.
app.
Yes, it's free, but they're just volunteers. So like you can just sign up to be a volunteer in Be My Eyes.
Yeah.
And so I mean you could get whoever on it, right?
Or you could get visual assistance.
Yes.
So you could call a volunteer, and you just have to you can just talk to them, and they can give you like one-on-one help for like a variety of things. And like Be My AI is also another feature of Be My Eyes, where you can actually like take a picture of what's around you, and it's an AI that like describes the picture. And then if you need more detail, you can actually it's like a chat, and you can actually ask any additional questions that you would have based on the information it already gave you. So
Absolutely. Can I share a story of when I used Be My AI?
Sure.
Great. Okay, so this was also when I was in New York, and I was trying to access my Airbnb. I was with 2 other blind people, and the keypad did not have any numbers on it, right, that I could read. So it was dark. I could not use my phone to zoom in because it was really dark. So I basically took a picture of the number pad which was the lock, over the lock. And I said, can you please tell me the order of the keys? Because I have the passcode, I just don't know how to enter it in. And so they told me the order of the keys, and I was able to enter it in. It took 2 or 3 times, but I was able to get in, and it was amazing. Like, I don't really know what I would have done if we didn't have that technology. Sure, I could have FaceTimed someone, right? So there's alternate methods of figuring that out. But that was an instance where Be My AI was so helpful. I don't use it that often, but that's just another really great tool to have in your arsenal to combat those barriers.
So the next thing that we will be talking about is explaining that disability is a spectrum. And Casey, do you have anything to share about that?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of people think when you tell them that you're blind or visually impaired that you can't see anything, right? Like we've discussed. But little do they know that blindness is indeed a spectrum. What does that mean? Well, not everyone sees the same thing. Like, they may have the same visual impairment. Like me and my friend Sean, we both have ROP, but we have very different degrees of vision. He is totally blind. He can't see anything. I, on the other hand, although I have ROP, I have some vision. I have totally blind in my right eye, a little bit of vision in my left eye, right? And there's this whole bunch of different visual impairments, different diagnoses, but nobody sees the same. Like, some people can see the width of a pin. Some people can see only with their central vision, so they can only see in the middle of their field of vision, and then nothing on their peripheral. Other people can only see from their peripheral vision and nothing in their central vision. It really, really varies. And every year, one of our favorite holidays is a White Cane Day, right? And so at the School for the Blind, which
We celebrate.
Lexi and
Ellie
have both been to many, many times, right? Our teachers have what's called vision simulators, and so people can put on these glasses that can simulate what it's like to see from that person's vision, but it really doesn't do it justice. But it's really cool because then they can walk using a cane and navigate, so then they can kind of, have the feel of, oh, this is what my brother can see, or this is what my cousin can see, this is what my daughter can see, right? So really, really cool. But like I said, yeah, blindness is a spectrum, and so this is why when you try to go help a blind person, it can be kind of difficult because everyone is different, right? Which is why it's so important for each blind person to know their needs, to know their abilities and their weaknesses, so that when they do eventually ask for help, they can get the best help for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, for me, like, going back to what you said about, like, vision impairment is a spectrum. Like, not, like, you can have, there's so many different vision impairments. Like, you can have, like, the same vision impairment as someone, but that doesn't mean, like, you can see the same thing. Like,
Yep.
my friend Eliza, she also has ONH, and she can see quite a bit. She can actually read large print, and she's like barely below like being able to drive, and she just like can't make out like smaller details. Like she can't see facial expressions. But going back, like it's all a spectrum. There's so many vision impairments, and there's so many levels and degrees of vision. And also with like being able to understand that like people just think like you can see or you can't, and you really have to be careful what you say when you describe to someone like, oh, I'm visually impaired. They automatically think like you're totally blind. But you have to like describe to them like what your vision level is, so that they can have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, and like what Ellie said, like I don't know, like there's a really, really wide spectrum. So like with me, I am completely blind, and so I can't see any lights or just anything in general. But like I have some friends who have ONH. Like my boyfriend, he has ONH, and he can see quite a bit. Like he has a lot of usable vision. So for those of you that don't know what ONH is, it's
Optic nerve hypoplasia. So it's the optic nerves are underdeveloped, so they're smaller than normal, and the optic nerve is like it's at the back of the eye, and so you can have like bilateral optic nerve hypoplasia, which is what I have. So it affects both my optic nerves. So that's a basic description of what it is.
And it's so cool because like we've been talking about blindness is a spectrum. Whenever I go to like large blind gatherings, like conferences or whatever, and I meet someone who has the same visual impairment as me, I nerd out because I'm like, no way, that's me. So it's really cool, and we talk about the differences, and we can kind of learn from each other. And what can I say? We're ROP buddies for me.
Yeah.
Also, this is not even related to vision impairments. But for me, like, I live with a vision impairment, but I also live with being neurodivergent. And that is also a spectrum because it encompasses a whole lot of things like autism, ADHD, anxiety. But also it could range from like severe ADHD, severe autism to like not even on the spectrum, but you have some like tendencies or things that like they're not as obvious, they're not as clear to people, and they don't like notice it until you like actually point it out to them. And like same with like vision impairments, a lot of people like with low vision, like people like don't even know they're visually impaired. Like they'll tell people that they're visually impaired, and then people will be like, what, you're visually impaired? Like you live life completely normal. And so that's how like I've been able to think about it, is that like it's all, any disability is a spectrum.
You bring up a very good point though, Ellie. Like especially tying it back to how blindness is a spectrum. For me, I'm what's called vanilla blind. I don't know if that's an official term, but that's a term that I use in my education when I explain to people the degree of my disability. And so basically what that means is my only disability is that I'm blind, right? But then going back to there's people who are blind and those who are also neurodivergent. There's people who are blind while also having cerebral palsy, like maybe they have problems with their hands or their feet. And that's what makes the spectrum so cool, is you get to meet others who are also blind, but then you can learn how they do things differently with their added disability. And it's really, really cool. It's really, really interesting because then, like when you go to apply for jobs or internships and you tell them your disability, like there's so many questions here. How do you tell them that you're blind? When do you tell them that you're blind? Same thing like when you're going on a date for the first time. So I've been on dates and girls don't even know that I'm blind until I tell them, like I have my cane, I have my sunglasses on, and they don't even realize, and it's so wild to me. But same thing when you're applying for a job. Usually when I apply for a job, they don't usually know that I have a disability unless there's somewhere within the job description application where you have to disclose your disability. It is then there that I will disclose. But then at the end of the interview, they'll usually say something like, "Oh, is there anything else you want us to know?" I will then say, "Yes, I'm visually impaired, but don't worry because it's not about what I see, it's about what I do," right? And so, usually then they will follow it up with, "Okay, can you tell me about how your visual impairment may hinder you from doing your job?" And it is then where I'll give them examples. Like for me, due to my visual impairments, I'm not really the most artistic person. Like, if I'm going to be put on a group project to do a presentation, maybe I shouldn't be the person to make it look all really cool and colorful, right? Maybe that should be someone else's job. But I can help with verbiage. I can help with organizations, and that's just one example. Like, don't underplay yourself when you're talking about your disability, because that just makes the barrier wider. That just makes the employer, whoever you're talking to, underplay you, and you don't want to undersell yourself. You want to make yourself seem really capable, because that's what we are. We're capable young adults, right?
Yeah. So basically, in conclusion, like we hope you learned something, and like hopefully now, like kind of how to interact with someone who has a disability, and like we're not all that different from the public. Like, we may do things a little differently, but you don't have to treat us differently just because we have a disability. And you can just treat us like normal people. And once you open up to us and like get to know us, you'll understand how like some of like what we're going through. And if you just talk to us, like, just talk to us like normal people.
Yeah. And if you guys ever have questions, you guys can always ask, because I bet you guys will have questions, and if you guys ever see a visually impaired person in public in the Ogden city, you guys can go talk to them and see like how they do things, because not everyone does everything the same, so I think I would say that.
All right, great. Casey, do you have anything to say?
I mean, people are always going to be very curious, and so what I'd say is, whenever you see a blind person, I can only speak for blind people, but if you ever see a blind person in public and you're just curious, feel free to ask, because it's not going to hurt, and we're used to it, because people ask us questions about our disability all the time. And so, it's always great to make someone's day and inform them about what a blind person can do, because at the end of the day, say it with me now, guys, it's not about what we see.
It's about
what we do.
There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Casey, it's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful episode.
If you liked what you heard, go ahead and tune in next time and give us a follow. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye!
Thank you for tuning in to the Untold Stories of Ogden City, a podcast made possible by the amazing people at Ogden City, Weber State University, and 2892 Miles to Go, and of course, the youth of Ogden. Please give this series a follow so you can hear more exciting stories from around Ogden City and hear more about its rich history. If you'd like to know more about 2892 Miles to Go and the work they are doing to tell community stories around the country, visit their website at 2892walk.org. That is 2892walk.org.